It was the home pulpit of the Reverend Dr. Ralph David Abernathy, and now the church sits empty on MLK Drive in the Vine City neighborhood. His family working to breathe new life into the place that was an integral part of the civil rights movement. Nick Sturdivant spoke with his family about what's next in this week's ATL Culture.
If these walls could talk, it would have a lot to say.
This was the think tank, the workhorse place for those who were actively involved in the movement. This is the place that gave the okay for the march across the Edmund Pettus Bridge. The green light was given from this church.
This is the historic West Hunter Street Baptist Church, where civil rights icon Reverend Dr. Ralph David Abernathy Sr. served as full-time pastor from 1961 to 1973. West Hunter Street Baptist moved to what is now Ralph David Abernathy Boulevard in 1973.
Black and white Americans came from across the country to learn the nonviolent way. That was done in this church.
Today, Annette Abernathy's mission is clear for the former church: to carry on the legacy of her father-in-law and see through the vision of her late husband, Ralph David Abernathy III.
Right now we're focusing on the restoration of the church. We're focusing on getting it a national registry of its own. We're focusing on making it a national landmark and eventually hoping to have it become a national park. There are so few civil rights national parks across this country.
The church building is owned by the Ralph David Abernathy III Foundation. The National Park Service is conducting special resource studies to determine whether or not it meets criteria to be included in the national park system. Abernathy says the church was awarded 2 grants through the National Park Service that total up to close to $900,000.
The initial funds have allowed us to clean the abatement process, mold, asbestos, and mildew. It's also allowing us to put the new roof on the church, which will be happening in the next couple of weeks. As you can see, the stained glass windows have been removed, and we have sent them to Lynchburg, Virginia for restoration.
By the end of July, the plan is to have a new roof, new windows, the bricks resurfaced, along with electrical and plumbing work done. Eventually, the plan is to also install an elevator.
My father-in-law and mother-in-law, Reverend and Mrs. Abernathy, have tons of artifacts from their time in the movement. This could be their home.
And Mrs. Abernathy says the foundation applied for a 3rd grant that would help them complete the restoration process. The National Park Service is expected to wrap up its special resource study on the church by next fall.